run, boys? Oh, shit. What am I saying? Guys, welcome back. It is episode 2 of, one second, what's it called? Project 23 with Luke Owen. We've got Robert Curcio here from Z Real Estate, based down in Melbourne, and you're branched up here. I don't really know too much about your backstory, so that's why we're here. We're here to learn about it. I just know you sell houses, you flip houses like pancakes. Welcome to the podcast, bro.
Yeah, no, look, thank you. Thanks for having me. Look, the story, I guess, it goes back quite some time as to how I sort of landed here in the Gold Coast, and I guess we sort of start from the top. But from a real estate point of view, I jumped into the real estate purely by chasing goosebumps is probably the best way to put it. And that sounds cheeseball.
Yeah.
My previous career prior to the whole real estate gig, going back many years, was in the hotel industry. So started off as just a very humble barman. Now, in fact, I had a military background, and I thought, well, we better sign up for the military. That's my passion.
Let's slow this down. So you, 1 second. So I want to take it to like you before anything.
Yeah.
All right. So young Robert Curcio, based down in Melbourne. Did you grow up in Melbourne?
Actually, not based in Melbourne at all. So, and that's another whole story. So I was actually a country boy back in a little town called Wangaratta, which is 3 hours outside of Melbourne.
That place is absolutely trash. I know
it
that.
is not. It is not trash.
Okay.
And I can tell you that it's actually home to, or it's recently now ceased, the biggest music festival, for example, outside of Tamworth, the biggest festival in Australia.
Oh, the Country Music Festival?
Jazz and Blues. Bigger than Tamworth in as far as tourists, and we've also got the most diverse range of vineyards in Australia. It's a huge tourist booming area, actually, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So hence why I was in the hotel industry. But going back originally, military, I was very, very much into the military background, trained cadets and that kind of thing. And I have a very disciplined sort of youth in as far as martial arts as well, and did a bit of semi-professional fighting, and then went on to teach. And I thought, you know what, I've always been that sort of alpha male as growing up as a kid, and very disciplined in the way we were sort of brought up. We were very strict childhood.
Yeah.
And thought I need a bit of a job here pretty quickly, as I was studying to be the next computer expert of the world.
Yeah. And when you say military background, did you do any army or any?
Yeah,
military?
yeah. So I was in the cadets, and then ended up teaching combat to the cadets. And then
how does that go? So you're in the cadets, like that's like a teenage. Is that?
Well, not necessarily, but in this case it was. So mine was more so from teaching combat training to the cadets at that stage. I started my martial arts career, well, I'll call it a career, but I started my martial arts background when I was only 6 years old.
Yeah.
So that was always just a huge part of my life, and more so just from a discipline point of view, more so than self-defense. I just sort of lived and breathed it. And back in those days, I won't mention the year because that'll give away my age, but the whole the Bruce Lee and the Karate Kids and those kind of things was rife, and it was just a huge part of my childhood. So from an early age got into that, and then obviously I've always sort of I was interested in that, taking that discipline further and potentially into the military.
Yeah.
An opportunity came to basically teach combat.
Yeah.
And then sort of got the ball rolling there.
What happened with so you're teaching combat to the younger?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
How long did that last there?
Short period.
Short period. Yeah.
Look, it didn't do that as a career base. It was more on a voluntary thing.
Yeah.
Which sort of stems into sort of where the story goes. I've always sort of been involved in giving back to the community as much as I can from an early age.
Yeah.
And I think my kids inherited that to a certain degree. Now, I've always sort of wanted to sort of have that sense of validation, sense of sort of adding value
That's
to
a good feeling,
to
isn't
people's
it?
lives. Yeah. And that stemmed into a fitness career later down the track. But getting back to the core of the story, there was a time where I was in sort of limbo. I had just finished a computing course. Yeah. And I think there was only 3 students that passed. I was one of them, and I thought, fantastic. And then literally 2 weeks later, the internet came out. And
are we talking, what year are we talking? 1999?
We're talking, years ago. Internet, Windows, was called Chicago, actually. It was the first version of it. Everything that I basically did, I was running off DOS, monochrome green and black screens, two-tone. everything that I literally did for 3 years became completely obsolete within about 2 weeks of qualifying my course.
Oh, wow.
So the decision was made as a very strict Italian, scared to leave Wangaratta with 4 sets of traffic lights. I was told Melbourne is bad by the parents. Melbourne is bad. You need to live and breathe and stay here forever.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
And I guess that comes from their history, which was leaving Italy.
Yeah.
And they've only ever had themselves a husband and wife team, and they were very, very scared. And I guess it was very new, but they took a big risk and came to the happy country.
Yeah.
So yeah, there in Wangaratta was not to leave. So the option was go to Melbourne and pursue my computing career and push on for another 2 years and sort of get up to speed,
Yeah.
or go to the army,
Yeah.
which was probably where I was headed. I had the papers pretty much here, or go get a part-time job somewhere and just work it out. So I rang the hotel, the biggest hotel in the area in Northeast Victoria, and I said, look, after a job, I think they said no to me 3 times, but eventually they said, look, do you have a bow tie? I didn't. I said, yes, I do. They said, do you have black slacks? I didn't. I said, yes, of course I do. I said, start tomorrow. You're in the bar. I'm like, fantastic. Now, I didn't even drink at that point, let alone pour a beer.
So is this in, sorry to jump in,
This
is this in Wangaratta?
Yeah.
So you haven't taken the step to Melbourne yet?
Not at all. No.
Okay.
So then I'm in this cocktail bar,
Yeah.
and there was people everywhere, and I'm well outside my comfort zone, and there was 6 ladies behind the bar, and I was the only male barman. So I had been thrown in the deep end, and I had my nervous hands in the pockets. I was only a kid,
Yeah.
and the first guy must have, typical bar mentality, typical local. He's realised, okay, I'm new to this. We'll exploit this kid and just have a bit of fun with him. So instead of ordering a Kahlua milk, he says, I'll have a brown cow, because he has to order the fancy name. And I'm like, I've got no idea. The next guy says, I'll have a pot of beer. I'm like, or you call him a midi over here, don't you?
Yeah.
Pot of beer. I'm like, okay. So I went into the kitchen and I said, hey, mate, to the chef, I said, do you have a pot? I'm not even joking. And he looked at me, and I won't tell you what he said, but he said, I'm going to throw you in that deep fry if you don't get out of here, mate. Thinking I'm taking a lend. But I literally knew nothing about hospitality, zero. I literally thought by a pot of beer, he meant an actual pot.
Really?
Of
How
beer.
old are you at this
I
age?
was 17.
17.
Yeah.
And you just went into the back of the bar. And
Yeah. So, but look, the
Well, is that illegal to be trying to fucking pour up beers at?
Yeah, well, look, I was a junior anyway.
Okay.
So anyway, maybe we can just tell them I was 18, shall I? Anyway, it's a long time ago. Rules have changed.
Yeah.
But long story short, when I sort of had this thing where I needed to have that part-time job, I ended up being the bar manager,
Okay.
to assistant manager, to
Yeah.
event coordinator, to manager, to co-owner.
Oh, wow.
And then ended up getting the opportunity to go into partnership with these people, and stayed there for over 20 years.
Wow.
And in
so
that
from
time,
17 to...
Yeah, to whatever that is. A long time. 20, 37.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
A long time. Well,
Yeah.
actually not quite. What am I talking about? How many years is that? 20
Twen-
years. No, it was 20 years on the dot. So what's that? 27?
27.
37. 37. Let's go
Well,
with 37.
you've lost me at these
Let's
fucking
go with
dates.
37.
So you co-own this bar or this hotel?
The hotel, yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then where'd that go from there?
So that was my whole world, basically. I
Yeah.
knew nothing outside of the hotel industry, and it was literally 4 walls, and it was, we're talking sort of 5-star quality, so certainly not a little shack. This was the largest venue in Northeast Victoria, in Northern Victoria, in fact, 980-person convention centre,
Yeah.
76 suites, apartments, pool, sauna, spa, all the facilities. The
Okay.
who's who of anyone that would be in that area, that would be the obvious spot that they would have their events.
Yeah.
We had every single possible event you could imagine over the years, and I think I've facilitated most of them. And weddings was, I guess, one of my passions, which is why I actually went into real estate, which is an interesting story.
Yeah.
So with the whole weddings thing, I calculated when I got out of the industry altogether, and I was reflecting, and I actually measured that I've personally facilitated or coordinated over 1,000 weddings on my own.
Before we move on from that, how did you get out of that? So you're co-owning this massive hotel.
Yeah.
How did that all come to an end?
There was a time, obviously, where, even from a young age, I've always wanted to, and this is not by any means saying that I am the best, but I've always had a drive to try and be the best, or at least do my very best at everything I do.
Yeah.
And I don't really take failure that easily. So I can own failure as long as I've given it my absolute all to anything I do.
Yeah.
But if I'm not giving my absolute best and then I fail, I just don't sleep. So for me, the hotel it was the number one in Australasia and second internationally. And I think now they're running even after me. I think they're number one internationally within their chain. So it is, we built it from zero to number one. Okay. Yeah. My martial arts and my sort of self-discipline is the same. Even me, as I live today, I just try and do the best that I can.
Yeah.
There was a point where I needed a bigger challenge. I needed something new. I needed something fresh. I needed to, I didn't want to get stale. And I think even when I'm employing people now, I always say to young kids, unless you absolutely live, breathe, and love what you do every single day, don't do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do something else. And I was at that point where I felt that I was becoming institutionalized.
Yeah.
And I needed a bigger challenge, something new, and I needed to step outside my comfort zone. And I realized that the only way I was going to grow as a person and succeed is to actually step outside of my comfort zone and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So there was a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do the unthinkable and
What'd
actually
you do?
just
fucking pack up and go.
Pick up my two kids as I was raising on my own at that point. Yeah. And basically just went to Melbourne with no real plan other than, righto, first mission before I change careers is I need to put food on the table. So let's not take a risk yet. Let's do something that I'm comfortable with. So I jumped into a cafe, basically, and we got that in from zero to the Good Food Guide in the first year, and that's still thriving now. And then the real estate thing came.
So there's nothing. So it sounds like a pretty good gig you had at this hotel.
Yeah, it was very comfortable.
Is there anything else that impacted you moving forward from what you done there? Because it doesn't.
Look, it was my children was probably the biggest factor.
Yeah.
I was a single dad at that point, really.
Yeah.
Raising them on my own. So I needed to make sure that they had the best opportunity, and I didn't want them to live a life where they hadn't experienced a full life. And by that I mean, even to this day, which is a little bit embarrassing, but to this day I still haven't been on a tram. You know what I mean? I haven't been to a concert, Luke. I've maybe been to one football game in my life. And the reason for that is being raised in a life of fear almost.
Is it the small town mentality? So you're
100%.
Taking it back to when you said your parents were just Wangaratta.
Yeah, but even beyond
they
that. They
hadn't stepped out of that.
Yeah, but even beyond that. So even with my previous place there at the resort, I literally would work from, it wasn't uncommon to work from 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning through to 1 a.m. So you'll do 6 o'clock, you'll do breakfast, you'll have buses, you'll do your breakfast shift, you swap it over into restaurants, set up your cocktail lounge, set up maybe 4 or 5 different events, transfer, you might have 3 or 4 going, then into the restaurant preparation, run the service, then run the cocktail lounge all the way through to 1 o'clock in the morning and go home. Or you might live there 15 weeks of the year. And back in those days, you didn't even have night staff. You would literally have the phone ring and there'll be a pizza delivery at the front door. So you'd answer at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd get up out of the hotel room and head downstairs and unlock, or one of the rooms might say, I've got a leak in my air conditioner. So then I'm up again, a professional, dressed up, and I'd go fix there. So that was my life, literally. And I missed my 18th birthday. I missed my 21st birthday. I didn't celebrate my 30th birthday. I didn't do weddings. I didn't do events. Didn't go anywhere because I put my work first. That was literally my world. And I actually probably lost a lot of friendships out of that in the end as well, because that's all I knew. Yeah. And I used to walk the town and I knew nobody, but everyone knew me because, you're the local barman, like, hey, Rob, how you going? I've got no idea who you are, but how you going, mate?
Yeah.
So I was in a pretty good space as far as people knew who I was. And they also, I guess there was a perception of arrogance too, because Wangaratta and the country town is very laid back. It's very relaxed and people can be like that sometimes. I see a lot of that in Queensland actually. Yeah. And I guess when you've got this establishment which is high end and you're dressed up always in the suit and the bow ties, and you have to speak in a certain way and it's professional and you're dealing with corporates every day, there's a certain perception of, okay, this guy's full of himself. Yeah. So then you sort of have to sort of tone that back. But yeah, so off to Melbourne.
Before you go there, so where does this partnership end? We understood like the reasons of why you're going to Melbourne, but where does the partnership, can we go into like any deals that might have happened, or how was your breakout out of that? You were there for so long.
Yeah, look, I had a very good relationship with the owners. We were almost.
But you were are you co-owner?
Yeah, co-owner.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had a very good relationship with the family that was running it. They did the right thing by me. They treated me well for many years. There came a point where I said to them, if I'm ever going to step out of it, I would be transparent with you. Yeah. And I think there was a time earlier than that I actually tried to get, not tried to get out, but I was looking at potentially pursuing the wine industry, which is another one of my passions, and I've given a lot of wine companies their start.
One second, you remind me, do you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
No idea.
Gary V. He's like the wine guy. Now
I don't know who that is.
You need to watch him, man. Maybe pursue the wine thing. If the real estate...
Well, the wine thing's my passion, man. It was one of my many passions.
Really?
So I started off, I actually gave a few wine, I won't mention them at their start. So again, being Wangaratta, we have the most diverse range of vineyards in Australia within 20-minute radius. Things that you can't get anywhere else. So
okay, before we move, how did you buy, so you've left this thing that was your whole life?
Yep. So first opportunity, I was going to go into the wine industry because that's my passion here. So I sort of tried to break away, I guess, a few years earlier, and that's where the ownership came in, because then there's like, you know what, Rob, we don't want you to leave. How about we make you a partner?
Okay.
So I stayed on for a few years as a co-owner at that point.
Yeah.
And so that's where that came. So I went from, coordinator, bar manager, event coordinator, assistant manager, and then obviously co-owner or partner.
Yeah.
But these guys I'm all about relationships and about connections.
Yeah.
More so than just transacting. And so for me, as long as I've always got that with whoever I'm working for or working with, then it's happy days. But my kids are my world and my priority. So at that point, it got to a stage where I needed to make a decision.
Yeah.
And it was, I guess, black and white. When it comes to my life and work, there's shades of grey and everything. But when it comes to the things that matter the most, it's black or it's white for me.
Yeah.
There's kids and there's money.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a simple choice. I needed to give them more as a single dad at that point, which circumstances that arose. Was put in a position where I basically needed to raise them on my own, it's not even a thought. Of course I would.
Yeah. Is that because of a
separation?
Separation.
So I was put in a position, of course, and it was not even a thought.
Yeah.
But I needed to be there more and do more for them at that point. And the only way I was going to be the dad that I wanted to be to them at that young age was to give up everything else.
Yeah. Okay.
And give them more of me and my time.
And maybe move away from that small town as well.
Had to move out because that was damaging their future. And I didn't want them to live a life where they were, again, thinking that was their whole world. I wanted them to see something different at a young age because they were still very impressionable at that age. Yeah. And I wanted to see more. I didn't want them to do what I did in my late 30s or mid 30s, whatever it was, work out the maths later.
Yeah.
And then get to Melbourne and look at the skyscraper, because it literally was when I landed there, and I thought, I feel like an alien. What is this? High rises.
Yeah.
You get a police car that goes past in Wangaratta, and everyone will go out the front door and go, "Where's that police car going? Who's what's going on? Or where's that ambulance going?"
Yeah.
Here, I get to North Melbourne, actually, my first stop at a hotel with no real plan. And I get to this hotel and I hear the police cars outside and the ambulance going, and I'm thinking, it's like birds chirping. It's so natural. Everyone's just like...
It's just normal.
Yeah. So it took me a while. I was literally like a kid that was just dropped in the middle of this strange new busy life.
At what age are you?
I'm
what age
in my
are we
30s.
going to Melbourne?
This is not that long ago.
So you hadn't have left.
I've gone to Melbourne back for obviously a few day trips, but not really to relocate my whole world.
Yeah.
So I went to Melbourne with no family there. No relationships, no connections, nothing. Just me, my kids, and somewhat of an idea that I was going to try and jump into a cafe.
Yeah.
Very different from a 5-star restaurant. I learnt that out quickly. I thought, this is going to be easy. I've done 5-star restaurants my whole life. This is walking into a cafe environment. It's going to be so good.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be like taking candy from a kid. Well, that was completely the opposite, but that's okay.
Before we move into the cafe, and I've heard your story. I'm good friends with your son.
Yeah.
And you've done really amazing with your kids as well. I've got to say that before we move on. But what's some of the run off some names of some of the people that you dealt with at this cafe before we completely move on from it. Like there was some stars that went, like there's Australian icons that kind of.
Do you mean more at the restaurant or the cafe?
No, the restaurant. So the hotel.
Oh, we have had
all
everyone.
the footy people.
Yeah,
all the.
We've had literally, prime ministers. We've had the likes of Tony Abbott. We've had any celebrity, anyone that's
Shannon Knoll was there.
Guy Sebastian many times.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Shannon, but literally anyone that would have an event in the northeast of Victoria, that was the only spot that they would stay because there was nothing else that was remotely comparable. So too many to mention, but literally if someone was here internationally and they were in the northeast of Victoria, they would be there.
Yeah.
A
lot of the footy teams and stuff.
Most of the footballers, because of course, we've got the Wangaratta Rovers and the Ovens and Murray and a lot of the superstars.
The Wangaratta. I start cheating up Wangaratta. Guys, I take back my comment that it was trash. I'm from a small town like that as well.
It's actually a beautiful spot. It really is, and it's still thriving now. It's growing at a rapid rate. And we're right on the border of New South Wales, which is 40 minutes away from Albury. So I'm a blues fan, of course, in the state of origin because we're so close.
Oh, so you're up the Blues, eh?
I'm up the Blues, mate, which is an unpopular. I think everyone else is a Maroon fan, which is probably not going to win any fans on this podcast. But no, look, I've always gone for the
that's
Blues.
Cool. That's cool. All right, well, we'll tap into the cafe then. So you're in Melbourne by yourself.
Yeah.
With your kids, tripping out, going.
Pretty
what's
much.
going on?
Got a little temporary place set up. I get into this cafe and I did a bit of research on what needs to change, which was everything other than the coffee. So I went around the locals in North Melbourne. I said, what's good about that cafe? They said nothing. I'm like, okay, terrific. I went to the next guy. What's good? He goes, everything's ordinary, but the coffee's okay. I'm like, okay. So then I heard that the coffee was okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, no problem. So then I went in there and changed everything about the cafe. The owners were friends of mine. So they gave me an opportunity to not only work, but to manage the property for a period of time.
Yeah.
So they said, you've got free reign. Hospitality is not our thing, but it's yours. So just do what you need to do. And I didn't want to take any risks. So I went there.
You didn't want to take any risks. You've changed the whole cafe.
No. What I mean by that is I didn't want to change the coffee, which is the heart and soul of what worked. Yeah. So I was out the front and I was into my polished Robert hospitality mode. First customer came through in North Melbourne. I'm not sure if you're familiar with North Melbourne, but it's very different.
Yeah.
First guy came by and I'm like, good morning, sir. How are you? Welcome to our cafe.
Yeah.
And he looked at me like, mate, you need to get that stick out of wherever that is. And then I realised I need to dumb it right down. So I lost all the polished threads and just chilled out and put on the casual apron and just spoke to people just real. Yeah. And we started getting more and more customers and started connecting with them on a personal level and just kept it basic, kept it real. We changed the food to soul food, comfort food. We didn't want to be the next, hoity-toity sort of organic coffee. We just kept it real.
Yeah.
And we knew that was where our niche was. And we just started to thrive. And then we grew that into something pretty spectacular. We had the graffiti artists come in and we made it sort of happening and it's still doing well. And the rest was history. So, the cafe.
That's a good example because a lot of people start things and they think it needs to be all hoity-toity and looking the craziest thing, but maybe tone it back a little bit and it might work for anyone that's watching this. Maybe that, just keep it simple and then it might be effective and actually win. Like this podcast, we're just throwing it together right now.
That's what
you might actually heard a bit of a beep in the audio or something. No. We're just here just winging it. We're getting it done.
Because I actually said to Luke, I said, you're going to chop and edit? And he goes, no, we're just doing this in one take. I'm like, oh, fantastic. Well,
it's an hour conversation. We'll see how we go.
That's fine.
But so the cafe, are you there for long?
I was there for a good couple of years. So again, that was always going to be a temporary thing for me in my mind.
Yeah.
I just needed to put food on the table for my kids.
Yeah.
So why risk it at that point completely? Stick with something that was somewhat comfortable for me.
I've got to ask you something. So you've said you've moved on from the hotel. I've got to ask this. Did you get a payout? Did you get any? Because you're saying you went to manage a cafe.
I did, but at the end of the day...
Did you blow it on partying?
No, it's far from it, mate. Look, I did, but at the end of the day, you've got 2 kids to raise. Yeah. So you just need to keep hustling as much as you can.
Okay, fair enough. I couldn't imagine you slowing down either. You're kind of like...
It's not how I work.
Yeah.
I'm a 24/7 person. Even now in my current career, which we'll touch on, I don't stop.
Yeah. I've kind of seen
OCD for detail, and I just do not.
Yeah.
I don't have a turn off button. It's all or nothing.
Okay, so we move forward from the cafe. What happened there? Did you just say that's enough as well?
Well, it got to the point where I was probably, my kids were starting to struggle a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I went in so hard that I would be working I'd be getting up at 3:30 in the morning to be at the cafe in North Melbourne, ready to go by 5. I'd set up the cafe. I'd get everything ready, get the coffee machine seasoned, sometimes the chefs wouldn't turn up, so you'd end up cooking as well. Not that I'm a cook, but end up cooking.
Yeah.
And I'd work long days, and I'd be just clocking up crazy hours, and I'd be wearing all the stress and the anxiety and the stress that come with running a small business and with not having necessarily a huge team around you.
Yeah.
Because you just don't operate that way with small cafes, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then got to a point where I was starting to feel like I wasn't achieving the purpose in the first place, which was being there for my kids as much as I should. I'd come home and I'd be exhausted and a little bit grumpy and just drained and just wanted to sleep and just rest.
Yeah.
And then kids just wanted to be kids, and they were in a brand new space too, and with a brand new environment, new school. They don't know anybody, and I just felt like after a period of time, like, you know what, I'm actually sacrificing giving them my best at this point.
Yeah.
So I needed to do something different.
Yeah.
Where I could be dad as well.
Yeah.
And give them the best version of me, but also something as I'm getting older at that point and now that I could still do in my, I guess, feeling like I'm in my prime and not be so physically, mentally fine. You can throw 100 stresses in me because I live for stress. I thrive on stress.
Yeah.
But physically, I was getting a little bit depleted to the point that it was actually starting to taxing on me at that point. I want to do something where I could do to the day I sort of heal over, and be profitable and still have that level of the goosebumps that I spoke about at the start, where I've still got those goosebumps.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is we're talking about 1,000 weddings, literally 1,000 weddings. I counted them. Yeah. Over 1,000 weddings that I'd literally done meticulously to the point. The staff hated me because there'd be 70 staff, and I'd make sure that everything was absolutely perfect. They'd cut the cake. By the time they take 30 seconds to walk, I'd already have told the band that the second they get halfway, you start to play so there's no awkwardness. I'd look over to the cocktail lounge and I'd make sure they're on the lights, and the second they cut the cake and start to walk, the lights in the venue need to go down at a certain pace. So every detail needed to be perfect. And I get the goosebumps now, as I tell you, right? Literally.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because that's a couple with their most important day of their life.
Yeah.
And I was not going to be the reason that something went wrong. And obviously things go wrong, but you just need to do your best to make sure it's the most important, most special day of their life.
Yeah.
So obviously they end up start the same way, they end the same way, probably in divorce, but they'd always end the same way. I've done some remarriages. But by the time they'd leave that venue, I knew I did my best, and they'd give you a hug and a kiss, the bride and groom, and they'd say, that was amazing, thank you.
I can feel your passion across from the... I started getting a bit G'd up then
so that's why I did real estate. I wanted something that gave me that same feeling. So it's not just about the monetary, and of course I'm about making money. Of course we all are, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I wanted something where it's give me that same feeling and not going to be physically demanding, and I could still be there for my kids and be a good role model and give back. Yeah. So now when I give a couple that have just bought their very first home, and I can see the happiness in their face, it gives me the goosebumps. Yeah. Or when I'm dealing with clients and they're selling their most prized possession.
Let's slow that down. So cafe, and then are you into real estate?
Yeah. So
is that your next move?
Yeah. So I've always had a passion for real estate, and I've always dabbled in it, even during hospitality. I've always had my hand in one way or another. Yeah. But when I sort of made the decision to completely pull out of hospitality, which was complete shock of everybody.
And before we move on to that's your camera, if you ever send in a message, that's the one that you're
looking
at.
It's that one over there. Right, thank you.
Not this one in the
I'm
middle.
just engaging with you.
Because there was an amazing fucking message and you looked at that camera.
Right, okay.
This is your camera.
I'll look at that camera. Yeah. But yeah, so where were you? Look, you just show me.
So you finished the cafe.
Yeah, into real estate.
And you're really fucking passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Because honestly, as I said, I'm good friends with your son, and he's spoken about you so well. Like obviously you two clash like crazy, but getting to know you and understand you, and now even we went bowling the other week, and that was awesome as well.
I didn't like to lose that either, did I?
No, you did. I think Wes won, didn't he?
No, I got him back the next week.
Anyway, so So, like, hearing your passion and you talking about cafes and fucking weddings and shit, it's a blessing to be here, man. And I greatly appreciate it. So you finish your cafe.
Real estate.
Now, how does the real estate come about? Like, that's a big jump from cafe, from doing coffees and shit.
Yeah,
and
look,
running
I don't think it is that big of a jump. Okay. And the best real estate agents, I believe, come from a sales background, hospitality. It's about people.
Okay.
It's about selling yourself before you sell your product. There you go. I'm looking straight at that camera.
That's the
It's
one.
about selling yourself before you sell your product. And that's the trick in everything you do. And
not selling yourself on only... No,
not at all.
On,
but, you know, you think about when you're working in a cafe or in a restaurant, okay? It's about the story. Now, we take a bottle of wine and it might be a bottle of Sangiovese.
Yeah.
Heard of Sangiovese?
No, you
we'll
said
call
that
it.
well,
We'll call it a Chianti. It's an Italian wine, Sangiovese.
Okay.
And people don't want to order that Sangiovese. They'll just go for the Shiraz because the Sangiovese is hard to say, and people don't really get it. That's where I come in as a salesperson, and it's my job to say Sangiovese, meaning blood of Jove, arguably the world's oldest wine. Julius Caesar drank this wine, and he gave the skins to the peasants, and the peasants made grappa, and they toasted to Julius Caesar, and it's the outside of Italy, we've got a vineyard which is 20 minutes away, Pizzini's, which are the patriarchs of Sangiovese wines, and it's just beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I'll have a bottle.
Give me the fucking wine.
You get it.
Wait, do you have the wine on you? I'll have the wine.
But that's what it is. And what happens is they have that and they have an experience.
Yeah.
It's not just a meal or in that, we're talking about the food. It's not just a good meal, good service, but it's an experience that you're giving them. And they're remembering you and that experience together.
Yeah.
So that's the whole model, I would say, with real estate. It's the same. It's just about creating an experience, being real, and making sure that they trust you.
Yeah.
So you're not railroading people, but treat people with respect that you expect.
Yeah.
And treat their possessions, their property in this case, as something of value. You're not just a transaction. So for me, when I got into this whole real estate gig, there was someone that, again, a little bit like my previous business, the relationship was strong. When I first moved to Melbourne, she helped me out with a rental property temporarily. And like, yep, thank you. But I actually thought very highly of the way she went about her own business. She was a director of her own company. And then she stepped out of that and then went into, why are you laughing, Luke?
No, I'm not. Who's this chick? Wait, who's the girl?
A lady.
The lady.
No, her name.
Oh, so where'd she come up?
She basically, I needed a temporary accommodation. So she was a director of her own business. She got me into a rental property.
Okay. So is this how you tap into real estate? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then
I just started thinking.
No, you're thinking untoward. No, not at all. Nothing. More like a sister, this one, at that point. Okay. So then I got into the whole real estate model. This guy's always thinking completely at another level.
You're the funniest guy, man. That's it. Okay, how did you... I went boiling hot because
your mind's somewhere else, bro.
Listen, so you're going to... so where do you go? Like, so... You're out of the cafe, real estate. How does that all go?
Yeah, so she was a director in her own company. She's now opened up her own little business, yeah?
Yeah.
And she literally worked from a home office at that point. Literally just a small little business in Point Cook in Melbourne.
Okay.
So she was willing to invest in me as a newbie, but she could see my passion and drive as well. And I said, you know what, let's have a go at this. So what I did.
I've lost you there a little bit. So you needed a rental property.
I was in a rental property that she helped me out with, and she was just really nice to deal with. It's very professional. I really liked the way she went about her business.
And then you started working.
And then I've said to her, you know what, have you got work?
Okay.
Let's have a go. And she's like, I'm very careful as to who I employ, but let's have a coffee and chat.
Yeah.
So I had a coffee, and obviously I must have presented reasonably well. And she thought, you know what, I can see something in this guy. Yeah. Where I think he might have the tools to maybe succeed. Yeah. So it was a good opportunity that I was given at that point. It was a very humble little home office that we worked out of. Yeah. She had a very large business before that as a director in her franchise. Yeah. But she's gone out to STEM in her own little business. And I thought this could be a good way where it's not a baptism of fire, but it can be a good nurturing, coaching situation where they can sort of show me the ropes, if you like. Yeah. And that was comfortable. So I got into this little boutique agency and basically I Googled. First thing I did in real estate was Googled. Yeah. Real estate agents. What do people don't like about real estate agents? Communication, they don't answer their phone, they dress like, real estate agents, they're slimy, they hire cars and fancy Ferraris that they hire that they will like to say that this is claim as their own half the time.
Yeah.
I basically just Googled the things that annoy people about real estate agents.
Okay.
And I did the opposite.
Yeah,
So
nice.
day one, everything I knew about real estate in my mind, I did the complete opposite. Everything they teach you in real estate school, like lie to list it, I did the complete opposite to that.
Yeah.
I think I wore a suit for about 24 hours, knocking on doors, and it wasn't working. And then I just didn't dress completely down, but I just toned it down a bit.
Yeah.
And just instead of knocking on a door or making a call or trying to appraise a property, I just like this, just talk to people and be genuine. And all of a sudden I was getting a really good response. So long story short, I started to really thrive. My phone started to ring off the hook. I started to get a lot of traction, and I was really doing well, to the point that we went from zero to an actual office, sold everything that they had on their board along with the staff that were there. And the rest was history. And there was my start of my thriving real estate career, to the point that you'd be on the shopping list. People would say, you know what, why ring this agent? I like the way this guy operates. And the rest was history there in the west of Melbourne as my start.
So were you renting out houses or selling it? You went straight into selling real estate?
Straight away, yeah.
And did you have to do a course to do that?
Yeah, of course. So I've obviously got my accreditation there in Melbourne, now in Queensland, both. Had my accreditation, of course. Got certified, and then literally there was a list of X amount of houses on the whiteboard that I was looking at on my day one. I thought, how do I get a piece of this?
Yeah.
All this commission. And there was a list of phone numbers dating back probably 6 months worth of phone numbers of people that were looking at property. I rang everyone.
Yeah.
So you still looking? Yep, great. Put you in my little pipeline. You still looking for a house? Yep. And then I just started marrying these buyers that I knew were still very active into properties that we had on the board. Yeah. And then if it didn't have a specific kind of property, I'd say, Luke, what's the deal breaker? What do you need? Rather than just do what a typical agent does and just let them go, I'd say, what do you need? You say, Rob, I want 600 squares north facing. I need 46 squares under roof. It needs to be in this particular estate, and this is my budget.
Yeah.
So I would literally take down that information in my spreadsheet, and I'd go and source it for them.
Yeah.
Almost like a buyer's agent almost.
Yeah,
so I'd literally be giving you a tailored approach. If I didn't have it, I'd go and get it. So then all of a sudden I was transacting, not only my attaining stock, but I'm marrying in deals, and I'm treating every single email, every single call, every single text message, every single inquiry, every single person that goes through an open house, I treat them as my client for life.
Yeah.
I make sure that they trust me, they can trust me, and that I'm the one that's going to get them the deal or find them the right deal. Yeah. And that's how I work. And now to this day, I have people that I've dealt with, 4 years ago that are calling me as their go-to, and saying, I want to buy an investment. And instead of buying a $600,000 investment, they want to buy a $10 million investment. And they remember your name because you did the right thing by them. Rather than trying to stuff your pockets with commission, lowball, get them to reduce their price. There's no skill in that, but 99% of agents do that.
Yeah.
Lie to list it is the model. Lie to list it.
Yeah.
Tell them whatever they want to hear, whatever.
When you say lie to list it, what's that?
What's happening a lot, and which is part of the reason why this Queensland thing was something that I considered as well. I see it happening right across Australia, but in Melbourne it is definitely a thing. The model of real estate is don't marry the transaction. This is a lot of real estate coaches will tell you, don't marry the transaction, which basically means don't get emotionally connected to Luke.
Yeah.
You're just a transaction. Go in there with high intentions, go in there with low attachment. Go in there with high intentions, but don't get attached to them. They're just transact, get a commission, next.
That's not good, is it?
That's the reality of the market. A lot of the times there are some very, very good operators, so I need to qualify that. There's some great operators, but there's a lot of people that you're just a number. So what will happen is this. Your property's worth $2 million. I'll give you a live example.
Yeah.
In Queensland at the moment, which is why I'm here. Property was sold last year for $2 million. There's no renovation being done to that property. Certainly not enough appreciation. But this year, they're asking for $4 million.
Where the fuck's it? I need to buy a house.
No, but reality is it's an impossible number unless you're absolutely getting an emotional, passive client that says, I love it, I don't care what it's worth, I've got squillions, I'll pay double the price in a year. Reality is it's not reality. What's happened here is that the agent is taking care of themselves and not the client. The agent wants that Lux listing on their website, on their pages, to leverage off, to get more listings, knowing it's not a realistic price, so that they get clients and buyers and they have their pretty face on a board with no genuine thought of actually transacting and doubling their money in 1 year.
So do they get the sale? Are they getting the sale?
Of course not. No. So then what happens is this particular vendor has been lied to by agent A, agent B, agent C, a paid marketing once, twice, 3 times with maybe a slightly different spiel. So then I come along with all the right intentions
but
the trust is not there.
Yeah.
Because they're being railroaded 3 times by this point or twice by this point. So where I've come in is I'm about making sure we put some values. I still want to make sure I get the absolute optimum price for our client, for our vendor. And there's a skill set, which is where our company now, which we haven't touched on yet, is completely different to any other company in Queensland, which we'll get to. But I'm about making sure we put good ethics back in here and in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And that was my model from day one. Do the right thing. Don't lie to list it. Tell people the reality of what their property's worth and then how we're going to get a premium with this particular strategy that's proven that will work. Okay? If you don't have a motivated buyer, you don't have a motivated vendor, and you don't have a motivated agent, the deals don't get done. You miss any of those 3 things, they don't happen. Yeah. So with me, I can talk underwater. You've worked that out. My energy levels are through the roof.
Have you had a coffee today? Yeah.
I've had about 4, and I live on about 10 before midday, and I'm probably due for one.
Yeah, okay.
So for me, it's about putting good ethics back in.
Yeah.
And I basically was completely different to anyone else in Melbourne at that point and was doing really well. Sales manager for years within that same little boutique
Was that
agency.
the little one? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got a call from
the big dogs.
From Zed himself, which was an interesting conversation.
Yeah. So how's that all come about? So you're a real estate agent in Point Cook at a small little place.
Very happy. Again, like my hotel, I was very comfortable, very happy, and I had security. Yeah. And I knew where I was. I knew the ins and outs. You know, there was no thought process.
Yeah.
Cafe, somewhat similar, and then the boutique agency that I worked for, I was very comfortable. It was 500 meters from my home at that point. It was, I was getting well paid. I was very comfortable, and I was the person that they'd call. So. Yeah. Then I get a call from Mr. Zed Nasheed himself.
Yeah. And this guy looks like a movie star.
He is a movie star. That's another. Yeah. We've got a bit of a TV show coming out, which we can.
That's
exciting.
Talk about. You know what? I was like, I need to get Rob on because before you blow up on that, it's not going to be a small show. Before you blow up on that, the interview's here. You know what I'm saying? And then when you've blown up, you come back on. Yeah. Bang, we go to the sky.
I think we've already blown up. I think you need to jump on YouTube.
It's massive. Yeah, 100%. Like the brand and who you work for and who you work alongside, it's massive. But a TV show, that's on another level.
The TV show is something that...
Let's not jump into that first. Okay. So you get the call from Zed.
Yeah. So look, I was selling a property in Werribee, Wyndham Harbour, actually, right on the water.
Yeah.
And there was a Zed Nasheed board there, Zed real estate board. And I had the one next on the marina. He had one next to me, right? So we'd sold ours, and I thought we can see if we can get his stock. So I gave him a call randomly one day, and I heard a lot of good things about him, and saw all the bling and the polish.
Wait, so 1 second, because you've said you've got a call of him, then you've said you've called him. How'd that
So
happen?
I've called him regarding stock because I'm looking to sell his property.
And you know each other at this point?
Not at all.
Okay.
But I just rang the number on the board.
Yeah.
But I knew of him because, I mean, everyone, unless you're living under a rock, you sort of know who he is.
Yeah.
So I'd made the call and he was instantly on the phone. I'm like, wow, this personality, like he's even bigger than me, yeah? There's like huge personality. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And but we sort of tried to negotiate a deal together.
Okay.
Between the companies.
Yeah.
Anyway, it didn't eventuate. That was that. And then there was a time where he's looking to recruit staff, and he'd been watching my Facebook and my pages and what I've been doing on and off market. I have more sold at that point. 95% of my stock was actually sold off market, not even on market. So some of this stuff didn't even hit realestate.com and domain. So he was watching it very closely for about 6 months, apparently.
Yeah.
And he gave me a call, and I save everybody's number. Because that's sort of good practice in real estate. So I was walking through the shopping centre there in Melbourne, and I get a call, and it was Zed Nasheed. And I go, hey, Zed, how you going? He goes, you saved my number. He said, wise move. I said, that's how I operate. And he goes, I need to meet you. And I said, oh, look, and I sort of knew where he was going. He said, I'm very comfortable. I'm a sales manager here. I really like where I am. So he goes, just come and have a cup of coffee with me. If nothing more, we can just be friends. I'm like, what the heck? So I drive over to Hampton. I was with my partner, Sarah, and I said, I'm going to go meet this fella. She goes, yeah, what have you got to lose? Why not? Just have a chat with him. So I turn up, and that was where it is a completely life-changing 30 minutes. I rock up, and I was in Hampton, and I rock into this office. Now, our office is a very humble little office.
Yeah.
This office, I should have known as I walk in, there's a stage and there's a film crew and there's all New York marble and, 3 floors, and we've got, it's just stunning. And I'm like, okay. So the receptionist comes out. She goes, oh, Robert, she goes, would you like a bottle of water? And I said, yeah, that'd be nice. So she gives me a bottle of water, and it was a Z branded water. I'm like, just a glass of water would have been fine. But I'm thinking, this is not your typical real estate agency. And then it literally was like a TV show. I'm sitting there in this chair waiting for Z to turn up. And I thought it was just smoke and mirrors, but it's not. This guy lives and breathes this. What you see is exactly what you get. He's on all the time. Yeah. The Lamborghini turns up at the front with the Z plates. And just like in slow motion out of a TV show, the doors open up, and then there's this guy in the perfect suit, perfect teeth, perfect hair. And he comes in and he's like, legend, how are you? And he shakes my hand. I'm like, great. He goes, come with me. So we walk into his office, and he's got the $100 note with his face on it, and he's got the desk, the bed, and he's just his confidence and the way he talks. He was engaging from the start, Yeah. And he's selling me the dream, and he's like, I've been watching you. He goes, you know what? You're not challenged anymore. And I knew it too. I was comfortable. Every time I get comfortable.
Hey, it was that next time, the hotel.
It was the next one. I was just comfortable. And he goes, you need something new. And he goes, and you know what? And he goes, I see what you do here, and you do this just for fun. And then he said, sell me. So I was selling him something, and he goes, you're a born salesman. He goes, you live and breathe it. And then he said, there is no difference between you selling $1 million house and you selling a $10 million property. There's a few things in between. He goes, but there's no real difference. Yeah. With your ethics, the way you work, with your strategies, it's just a different landscape. So then I thought, okay. So he gave me the pitch, and we connected pretty quickly. Yeah. But I was so overwhelmed. The TV, there's a microphone hanging from my head here, and there's just things happening everywhere. And this is not your typical office. This is just a different world to me. Yeah. And I'm glancing over a bit, and I'm like, okay. So I get back in the car, and I got a headache at this point. I'm sitting there, and I ring my partner at the time, and I said, she goes, what do you think? I said, I don't know what to think about that. And then I thought, you know what? Take a risk. Take a proper risk and have a go, because you're going to kick yourself. And I'm big about manifesting. And I think I've been manifesting that I was wanting more. I wanted to be more, I wanted to do more. And I thought, you know what, if I miss this opportunity and I'm going to look back at this and say, I should have, what could I have been? What could I have achieved? What could I have done? Yeah. So I said, I'm going to have a go. So I basically risked it all. And there was a lot of tears from both sides, myself and even my director at the time, because we forged almost a brother-sister relationship. Like, it was a really good relationship. And
this is the girl that I'm laughing about before. Shit. I'm sorry, listen, if you watch this, I'm very sorry. I lost you a little bit in that combo.
She's a lovely lady, lovely family.
Okay.
So then I literally, there was a lot of tears there, because I was like, you know what, this is a big thing, but we had a good partnership going there, right?
Yeah.
But I needed to do this for me. I needed to have a challenge. So I stepped out of my comfort zone completely and went to this new place. Within 1 week, my first listing was $4.2 million in Gisborne.
Yeah.
And 3 other agents tried. I got it sold, sight unseen, and the brand helped that incredibly. Obviously, there's a skill set involved there, but we aren't like a typical brand that relies purely on these real estate platforms.
I like the Z. Oh, the now Zelling, like
Zelling,
you're saying
Zale,
now
Zol,
Zelling,
that's
all
our
this
thing.
Z stuff and
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I like how that's branded. It's an awesome thing to see.
It's clever, and it's the whole Z full stop. And we're all about sort of being the industry disruptors. That's our big thing, being the industry, disrupt the industry, doing it differently. And even Zed's story is completely, an incredible story of how he came from adversity and started with zero in Afghanistan, war-torn country, escaped to Pakistan, and then they came to Australia with nothing. Literally 14 people living out of an apartment at one point.
Wow.
And they literally started from zero. He was selling hot dogs. Instead of $5, he was selling for $25 and worked out how I can sell outside of a nightclub.
That's awesome.
And that's how we started. And then he went into a Telstra, worked for Telstra, and he had an angry customer and he managed to convert her. And she happened to be a real estate agent and said, you should be in real estate.
We'll get to Zed's story.
Yeah.
I've got to get Zed on here. Right?
Yeah.
So you've left, you've got a headache, you're stressing out, you're going, shit, is this the move?
I'm going to do it. No security blanket, no security at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a proper go and see what I can actually become and what I can do. And then jumped into the whole Zed real estate. In my first sales meeting, I'm up on the stage and I'm like, this is not how I know sales meetings to be. And I'm there having to pitch and I'm talking and the staff will clap at everything. You know, they clap at everything. They celebrate every single win and they elevate you.
That's awesome.
And they still to this day, literally, I can check my phone. There'll be 10 messages there. Every single staff member we have right across Australia, every single staff member that has a listing, has a sale, whatever it might be, we literally all, it's almost a must. We will all celebrate everyone's wins. And that's the mentality of the way we go about it. But his model and why we have the whole Zed, Zelling, Zale, Zed full stop, that whole brand, we don't have it's not a real estate agency as such. His idea was he was hugely successful at LJ Hooker, 3 times #1 agent of the year. And he was just like, you know what, I can do this different.
Yeah.
So even before all this stuff, property videos, right? He was one of the first to do it, but he would do it in a way where he'd go in lighthearted. He'd be dressed up as Spider-Man in one. He'd be dressed up as James Bond in another, and he'd roll around in the grass. Yeah, and he'd do the videos. And this is back in the day when there was none of this, right? And people would just watch it, I guess before viral was even a thing. And they just were like, they wouldn't be laughing at him, but because he's sort of new to Australia, second language. But be like, oh, I'm engaged with what this guy's selling.
No, that's super smart.
And it was so clever. And he was so clever with his branding that he thought, you know what, I can do this different. So he created his whole Zed full stop. So we have under Zed is Zed Money, finance company, Zed Development, Zed Project, Zed Commercial. Okay. We have 18 different divisions under Zed. So it's a whole Zed full stop, one shop stop. There is nothing else that you need. So we're not just transacting houses. We have property located companies that work. We have a company that we've signed up in Dubai. And we're transacting $100 million at a time for property. Wow. We have international clients and we're the most followed brand of real estate in Australia, certainly in Melbourne, if not Australia at the moment, one of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
and then there's a show coming.
And now we have a TV show, which again is going to be bringing more attention to our listings.
Yeah.
But rather than some of these TV shows where I guess there's a lot of creative license and fudge, ours will be something that's genuine and real, and I think will be not only entertaining, but I think people will get a lot from it as well. So
it's exciting times. So you sell the $4.2 million property.
Yep, and then the rest is just a spiral. The phone's ringing because when you're selling at that level, people are going to want to list. Yeah. You know, we failed 3 times with our previous agent. Let's give you a go. You managed to repair this campaign. So I carved out a reputation quickly of that guy that you call to repair campaigns. Okay. Which is not the ideal situation. What I'd rather do is, hey, Rob, list my property, which happens a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm also getting a lot of calls of people that have been railroaded 2 or 3 times. And from referrals over many years, they're like, you need to get someone that's actually going to fix the problem. Okay, call Rob. Yeah. He's got the brand, which is Zed now as well.
Yeah.
He's got unconditional clients that are motivated. He's got the energy. He's got the tools that actually make sure that you package it and make sure you get the right result.
Yeah.
So I'm going in there 3rd time, repairing the campaign, which is what I did here, and I get a lot of business.
So from that $4.2 million listing, any big thing happened throughout that, or you just been hustling? How long have you been with Zed for?
Zed, I've been there for 2 years.
2 years.
And in my first year, which is part of the reason why I'm here. And I'll try not to get emotional with it.
When you say here, Gold Coast?
Yeah, so my mother passed away on the first year that I started at Zed Real Estate and on my father's birthday.
Yeah.
And life-changing for me completely. So we won't go too far into that other than to say that at that point, I'd said no to this opportunity a few times to move here. Because why would you move to a new state with no network, with practically no staff, starting from literally zero? Why would you do that when you've got such a good network and people are calling you to list their property and you're transacting over there and you're doing really well? Why would you possibly come to a completely different state?
Yeah.
So then when that happened, suddenly I got to the point where it's like, you know what, you got one spin at life. We got one go and it goes too fast. And my parents sacrificed everything to give me a better life. And they would literally we came from nothing. They would literally be, my mother would cut a chocolate bar in 3, and not eat. There's your kids. So I'm like, I wanted to do more and make sure my kids don't live like that in the future.
Yeah.
And do something with this life that they've given me. And I thought, I'll take the gig. So I was agent of the year in the Z real estate with the most listings and sales in the first year. Yeah. Went like a bat out of hell when I first started at Z. And obviously being their number one agent, they thought, you know what, let's not take a risk and put someone over here on the Gold Coast that might or screw it up. Yeah. Let's give Rob the opportunity. So I literally, when that happened to Mum, I packed my little sports car with every single bit of clothing I had and I drove 18 hours. With no real accommodation. I said, you guys work it out when I get there. Yeah. They got me in a little place in Mermaid Beach in a little apartment. And I sat there that night and thought, where the hell am I? What have I done? What is this? Literally, I was in my comfort zone 24 hours ago and now I'm in the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
With nowhere to...
From Wangaratta. Yeah. Like Wangaratta. Melbourne, then you got Gold excited Coast. About Melbourne and now you're in...
Yeah, with no real, other than the passion and the drive and the skill set that I know that I have, and with the intentions that I know that with the right intentions, I thought I'm going to have a proper go here. Yeah. So I recruited staff and I'm still growing staff. So if you've got the energy, looking at the camera, I'm recruiting hardcore here. If you've got the energy, the passion, the drive, you live, dream, sleep real estate, you don't need to have all the experience. I'll teach you that. Come and see me.
Where do they find you at? Where?
So we have offices in Mermaid Beach.
But maybe they can search you up?
Yeah, for sure. Just email me at robert.c@zrealestate.com.au.
I love how you've done the email. You didn't do your Instagram or anything
no
like
chance.
that.
Just email me. I'll get onto you.
So how's the Gold Coast treating you now? How's everything going?
Look, it's absolutely thriving. So and this is the thing that you're not going to hear, okay? Because agents don't like to tell you the truth when it comes to this stuff. The commission over here is twice Melbourne, number one. Is it? Your prices over here are just for property is unbelievable, and we also see huge opportunity to transact and actually do it well. Yeah, adding value to the market. We're not just transacting, but actually adding genuine value. I see properties that we've got a property I've listed for $20 million. Right? It's going to be live shortly in Sorrento. I can tell you this is another repair campaign. And I can tell you that this particular property, right, was previously packaged and it looked like $1 million house. Yeah. Because there isn't the same level of marketing that we do. The way they priced it, and this is so true, I don't understand why agents will do this. One of the first things that they do in the Gold Coast or in Queensland, they've listed a property, let's go to auction. Yeah. Second worst, one of the worst clearance rates in the country, let's just go to auction with it. And the property's worth $3 million. But let's start the price at 2.2 million. Yeah. There's a lot of it happening. It's not just in the Gold Coast, but in Melbourne as well. Let's start at 2.2 million. But they want 3 million. And there's a lot of games being played. And then, of course, if it gets passed in and doesn't hit the reserve, well, then how do you possibly justify asking for a higher price? Yeah. So there's a lot of that happening and still happening. And again, it's about the quick buck rather than actually trying to transact at the right price and making sure you've got a buyer that's happy and a vendor that's happy. It's just we see opportunity here, and that's why we've opened up. And the way we market the property is not like anywhere else. We're not relying on that REA and domain purely. Obviously, that helps. Huge database, of course. Yeah. But we've got enormous amount of clients that are buying, and 84.4%, which is well noted all over the radio stations of late, 84.4% of the people transacting in Queensland at the moment are from interstate.
Oh, really?
That's your buyer. We have the hugest portfolio, enormous portfolio. So we aren't just going to be one of those agents that's going to just give you the BS. We genuinely have the clients that are actually active and buying, not just across Australia, but internationally as well. Yeah. Which is why we're getting these great results, and a lot of them are done off market. But landing here first day, I go to my very first presentation. And
where? In the Gold Coast?
In the Gold Coast, in Mermaid Beach, or Mermaid Waters. Yeah. And this is when I knew it was different. So in Melbourne, we're all about the deal. And in Sydney, I guess it's very much just the deal. Let's just negotiate. It's very laid back here, which I love, very chilled. People are friendlier here in the Queensland, which I'm really falling in love with the with the whole Gold Coast vibe and just the Queensland way of life. I've actually become started to swim and do all these things that I don't normally do. You know, I usually sink, but I'm swimming each day and I'm walking along the beach barefoot with no shirt, things you wouldn't do in Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
So I'm loving the whole lifestyle. But I get to my first appraisal in Mermaid Waters, and I get in and I said to the gentleman, I said, this is going to be so easy. I'm thinking to myself, because I never lose listings, yeah? I'm going to get this listing, not a problem. So I go in, I look at the campaign, images are awful, price is completely wrong, he's been railroaded, not a problem. I'm going to give him genuine value. I'm going to educate him on where we can go, what we can do. We're going to get this one sold in no time. I've got the buyer.
Yeah.
So I go in, elderly gentleman, and he says to me, I said, look, you've been on the market for just over 100 days. No rush. I'm like, no rush? You've been on the market for 100 days. Yeah, no rush.
Why is he on the market? Yeah.
I'm thinking, this is in Melbourne, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you're out. I'm thinking, okay. I'm thinking, this is my first learning curve. I said, now your images, we can really do something. We can do this. We can do some beautiful dust shots, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I'll just get new ones. I'm like, okay. I said, your current agent. I said, can I ask you how many people you've had through the property? About 100, 110. I said, 110 people through the property. I said, so obviously the price isn't a problem. Do you think maybe your agent's not strong enough to close one of those 110 buyers with being able to negate? Because you're never going to have a perfect property. You're going to get pushback.
Yeah.
No, she's very good. She really knows her stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got any chance of getting this listing. And I walked away with it. Obviously, I didn't list it. Probably were the first time in years that I hadn't listed a property at that point. And I thought, where have I landed?
Yeah.
This is so different, so laid back. And then I was meeting with some developers, and the first guy said to me, lose the jacket, turn it back, push back. I've been doing this for 30 years, what you need to do. So then I tried to become a Queenslander, so I came in a little bit more sort of, not the black suit, which I'm wearing a black. I felt like it today.
Yeah.
And I just came back with this more laid back approach. That didn't work. I thought, I'm screwed here. I'm not resonating with the people. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not resonating with people because I'm listening to too many people.
Yeah. Just got to be
I've got to
yourself.
run my own race, and I've got to be authentic. And that's what worked for me in the past.
Yeah.
So instead of toning it back, I ramped it up 100 knots.
Yeah. Okay.
And just gave them me. And you know what? It worked. And then people realize I'm wearing the black suits and I'm wearing them. I might not look like a Gold Coast person, although I'll try.
Yeah.
But I will be authentic, and people started to resonate. People started to connect, and then the deals started to happen. People are listing. I get emotionally and I'm a bit of an empath. I get connected with people quickly.
Yeah.
And I make sure that we are transacting. We're putting, when you leave an appraisal and you get an elderly lady in Burleigh that gives you a hug and says to you, thank you, Rob, you're going to help me out because I've been railroaded twice. That's when you know you're doing the right thing, yeah? And then you get the result for them. That's what we're about. So I'm about making sure that we elevate the team. I'm recruiting people that have got genuine passion, that live and breathe it, that are coachable, and that are actually out there to make sure that they're not only transacting, but they're getting great results, setting new street records, right? Which we've just set one in Mermaid Waters recently, but setting new street records right across the state really is what I want. And we're not just Gold Coast; we're Queensland. We've got properties that 12 hours away.
Okay.
So
do you know what's that place called? 12 hours away.
Well, it's about 12 hours. It's called Bush Beach. Sorry, now I've got to look it up. You got me.
No. I was
Bushview Beach, I think it is. It's
Bushview Beach
near Townsville. How far is Townsville exactly?
Oh, that's 10 hours away.
Yeah,
4.1. I'm not a Queenslander either.
4.1 million. It said that one. So
really,
but again, same situation. A repair campaign. A beautiful, masterpiece of a property over 4 levels. But yeah, we're not exclusively Gold Coast. We're Queensland.
Yeah.
Queensland,
you're
Melbourne,
Australia, Dubai, wherever you want to be, you're
and
there.
the plan is we are opening up one office. We aim is Dubai, LA, Adelaide, Perth. We want to be in every single major city.
Yeah.
Sydney, there's something that we've got cooking up there.
That'll be big dramas down there. It's very competitive.
It is, but I think again we've got something that's very different and very authentic.
I've watched the show, and what I wanted to tap into next, and probably the last thing that we'll chat about, is really what's next for you and the TV show. Like, I think whatever you can say, if you can say anything.
Yeah, for sure. Look, we'll start with the TV show. I guess for the TV show, again, it'll be highly entertaining, and this is going to go into Zed's story.
Yeah.
That's really where the roots of it is is basically where he started to where they are.
Yeah.
They are very much a family, and beyond it, we'll call it smoke and mirrors, but it really is. That's how they live. They live this just fast-paced life.
Yeah.
It's high energy at all times. Right, you never want to get me and Zed in an appraisal at the same time. It's quite comical because we're both going at 100 miles an hour. Yeah. So we're like, who's going to talk? And he's like, you talk, or you talk. We sort of take turns because it's full on, right?
Yeah.
Because we're so passionate about it. So the story is he's humble beginning to where he is, okay? But beyond that, it's the family values that they have. They're 4 brothers. All right, and one's a CEO, one's in operations, one's as a sales agent, one's the main director. They all have different roles and they work seamlessly together. But the properties that we list are absolutely spectacular, one-offs in some cases, you know. So just showcasing those properties and all, I guess, the behind-the-scenes stuff of the reality of the market and what really happens, and all, I guess, the politics behind it and the steps involved in getting the deals done. It's literally a 24/7 hustle.
Yeah.
And then obviously us with the Gold Coast, there'll be a bit of a crossover there because our markets are very different.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be highly entertaining for them to sort of see, and also to be able to showcase properties. So when you're listing something, for example, at $20 million or even $5 million, right? When you're listing something at that level, your clientele goes from this to this. It's a tailored approach.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way we do it is not only are we already doing it by making it go viral. We had a property video that I did here in Upper Coomera. All right. It's had 12,800 views in 24 hours. I'm not sure if that's a lot, but that's good, just in one little platform. We've got 70 platforms. On one platform, we've got over 12,000.
Did I reply to that story? That one? That
video?
Was
a different one again, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's just one. But every single agent is cross-promoting it, the websites, the pages, TikTok, your Instagram, individually as well as a company. So there's that. But then this whole TV show will just bring a different level of noise and publicity to those particular properties.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of beast to what they do here locally.
Can we get a high, so you've told me, I'm not going to say it, and you don't say the name, but use it. It's going to be involved. Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a big show.
It is. I can't say too much more for now, but that'll be launching, and perhaps I'll give you some more insights as we get closer to that. There's a few other ventures as well as that, which is hugely exciting. And then as far as where we're headed, we aim to, again, as I mentioned at the start, we aim to just put good values, good ethics, transact as much property as we can, doing it the right way.
Yeah. And
we're about to set some enormous records here on the Gold Coast, and it's been very, very well received, and we're thriving, and it's just the beginning. You know, we're not one of those agencies that are going to come in and come out. We're not a small little franchise by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. We're here to stay. And we're here to make sure that we absolutely dominate the market here on the Gold Coast and surrounds.
Yeah, awesome, man. We'll finish off with, that was a great chat. We'll finish off with a message to that camera, to anyone that's looking to get into real estate, any advice or anything, even if you want to talk a little bit about mental health or something, like any message to anyone
I guess mental health is a really important subject. And I guess we start with that. It's about being able to, I guess, take the time that you need to reflect, be appreciative, be grateful, show gratitude to everything you do. Discipline and consistency is the most important thing you could do as a young agent or someone that wants to thrive. Myself personally, I a bit of a personal one. I've lost 11.4 kilos since January. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Fitness is part of my other sort of background. And I say to my team in the last sales meeting, we'll call it a sales meeting is what we call it, sales meetings. Yeah. And I tell them the 2 key words, discipline and consistency. You know, if you're disciplined in what you do every single day, everyone knows what it takes to be successful in anything, whether it's fitness, whether it's just making money. It doesn't matter what industry you choose or what you want to do. You know what it looks like. And if you really think about it, you know the steps that it takes to actually be successful. So when it comes to making money, when it comes to making money in real estate, you know what it takes. It takes prospecting, and prospecting might be making calls, knocking on 1,000 doors until the soles of your shoes wear out. And that's what I did in my first few weeks. Yeah. It wasn't peaches and cream. I literally had to bust my butt to make sure. And all it was no, 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 no. And all day was no. And I could feel my body language going like this.
Yeah.
And then I had to remind myself, got to pick yourself up because you're one yes away from 60 grand, 70 grand, 100 grand, 30 grand transaction commission.
Yeah.
And then I got that, sure. And that's where it all starts. So being disciplined to make sure you do the things that are necessary, that you know what you need to do every day, even if it's cold, even if it's not popular, until you finally get the yes. Doing them with that discipline and that consistency every single day. Simple as that. With my weight loss recently and getting fitter, I was always reasonably fit, getting fitter. I knew that I had to be in a deficit. I knew I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I still do to this day for 30 odd years. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up, I'm swimming, I'm jogging, I'm in the gym, I'll do my hour, and I'm mentally ready from the moment I start my day. Because there's people say, are you ready? But they're not really ready.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is you got ready and you got ready. Are you mentally actually ready to give the best of yourself to that particular day and to those clients that rely on you? So for me, with that mental side of it, it wasn't just about getting physically fit. I knew the steps that I needed to take. I needed to be in a deficit. I needed to train. I needed to be busier. I needed to intake needed to be less than the output.
Yeah.
So to actually lose the weight. So I had a very set structure and I achieved that goal. Real estate and anything else is the same. Be disciplined, be committed to what you're doing, and keep being hungry for it. And that's it.
Robert Curcio, guys, make sure you subscribe and see you guys next episode. Big love, man. Thank you so much, eh?
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Take care.